The incarnation pattern of the beginning third density mind-body-spirit complex begins in darkness, for you may think or consider of your density as one of, as you may say, a sleep and a forgetting. This is the only plane of forgetting. It is necessary for the third density entity to forget, so that the mechanisms of confusion or free will may operate upon the newly individuated consciousness complex. Thus, the beginning entity is one in all innocence oriented towards animalistic behavior using other selves only as extension of self for the preservation of the all-self. The entity becomes slowly aware that it has needs, shall we say, that are not animalistic, that is, are useless for survival. These needs include the need for companionship, the need for laughter, the need for beauty, the need to know the universe about it. These are the beginning needs. As the incarnation begins to accumulate, further needs are discovered. The need to trade, the need to love, the need to be loved, the need to elevate animalistic behaviors to a more universal perspective. End of quote. Ra, the Law of One material. Hello, fellow seekers. Welcome back to the Law of One Spiritual Advice Podcast. My name is El, and today I return to read some spiritual philosophy, Law of One topics, and share with you my opinions and perceptions on them. Today, that being about why can it be easy? Well, more so specifically, why do we need to be confused? Why do we need to come to the third density, be confused, suffer, go through pain in order to grow? And so we're going to go into basically the purpose of life, or third density life. We will talk about the limit of the viewpoint, and we're going to contrast that between veiled incarnations versus unveiled incarnations, because as they say, we went through a forgetting, so that you could consider us being in a veiled incarnation where we forget everything about the universe and who we are. And we will go into also the Fermi Paradox, just briefly, but more so in my own way, which is about why don't they save us? Why don't the aliens just come down and take care of us and make everything right? Well, this is what this podcast is about why can't it just be easy? And that is many reasons, multi-layered, but to make it really easy, the purpose of third density is basically to learn the ways of love. And I shall start this podcast with a quote from Ra again, such as the previous quote. That previous one was from session 21.9, and this one is going to be from session 82.15. Ra just makes a very brief comment. They state, "The purpose of incarnation in third density is to learn the ways of love." End of quote. So, well, we have to get into what is third density about? What is the lesson? What is the goal, I suppose? Well, to learn the ways of love. So, as much as you would like to use your intellect and your smarty pants brain that you have to try to navigate yourself throughout this illusion or this third density incarnation, as much as your brain and intelligence and intellect serve you well, you must always be considering what your heart has to say in this equation, because, that's like what they're saying right here. The whole reason that we are here is to learn the ways of love. So although your intellect serves you well, that helps you survive and eat and obtain money to keep living and things of that nature, if you're not also balancing your life and your perspectives and everything in it and with a perspective of love, the ways of love, whatever that may mean to you, well, then you may be falling short of the purpose of your whole reason being here, my friend. And so let us, refocus on love and trying to be good portions of the Creator that practice love in whatever way that we sort of see fit, that we see as resonance with love, and go about and do that. But firstly, let's just quickly talk about what I'm talking about when I'm saying pre-veiled conditions or post-veiled conditions. So my understanding of the way this whole universe works is that the Creator, from the harvest of its previous experience in its previous sort of octave, has then created this octave or this universe that we now live in, and the center or the heartbeat of that universe is love. Okay? However, in its experiencing of itself and wanting to know itself, it has had many attempts at knowing itself through planetary incarnations, let's say, right? So just people being on a planet, living on a planet and learning, growing as a mind-body-spirit complex. In other words, just in sort of maybe like some sort of bodily form, like a human form, just to make it super duper easy here. Okay, so what my understanding is before, where they're talking about how we went through a forgetting before, like I don't know how long ago, I could look it up, but it doesn't really matter, right? Thousands and thousands or hundreds of thousands of years ago or millions of years ago, who knows, but the logos of our universe, the sort of creator of our universe, had implemented this illusion without a veil. So even though that you and me would be here incarnated on earth as a human and a mind body spirit complex, we wouldn't have that forgetting, that veil. In other words, we would know know our connection to the Creator, we would sort of be able to understand each other's thoughts, like telepathically. We'd be able to see energy. Like, nothing would be hidden from you that is, right? Nothing of actual reality that exists in sort of the physical and metaphysical reality would be shielded from you. However, we live in a place where I would say, for the most part, the metaphysical reality is shielded from you, and you just get to interact with the physical reality. So you can consider the post-veil conditions being sort of not connected, not knowing what's going on. And why would we do that, right? Because that's basically implementing the mechanism of confusion. And why would we want to be confused? Like, don't confused people get lost? Well, I mean, apparently they don't, because of course this has its paradoxes, and the more that we deal with paradox, the more that we come closer to spiritual truth. So I have this quote from session 99.5, how they explain how distortions are the limit of the viewpoint. In other words, because we live here behind the veil, that causes us to become distorted in our viewpoints, or distorted in our mind-body-spirit complexes, distorted however you would like to think of it. Distorted means, something that has gone astray from maybe the healthy, normal source, right? From the source, everything goes out and becomes distorted from the source. All right, so 99.5, they state, as in all distortions, the source is the limit of the viewpoint. End of quote. So as we are here behind the veil, we create distortions because we don't know what's going on, because we have a limited viewpoint, and so we create these distortions within ourselves. So then why isn't the universe completely fallen apart? Well, this is the sort of the magic of it. In that, there is another quote which will balance this previous quote. So from session 104.2, they state, it is the way of distortion that in order to balance a distortion, one must accentuate it. End of quote. So the way that I read that is that we sort of go down little paths of distortion, only so that, when I put it another way, we may experience what we do not desire, so that maybe we know better what we do truly desire. In other words, there are no mistakes, there are surprises. You can go and make a mistake and go down the wrong path, and even become extra distorted, only to realize how distorted you've become and start to make changes. But maybe you wouldn't have made those changes, right? They would have just been subtle distortion within you, and so you have to sort of accentuate that distortion in order to really take notice of it. And to put it another way, it's going to lead to healing in the long run, right? It's sort of terrible when maybe somebody goes down the path of distortion only to not see their catalyst or see the lesson in the distortion, and then just keep distorting themselves to the point that maybe they leave this density, but then, that may happen, and so be it, and they'll go through healing, and they'll have many more attempts to go through those lessons again. But the way that I can see this is even just like a small sickness in your body, right? It can go unnoticed if it's just sort of laid dormant, or it's subtle, or it's not a super intense sickness at this point. However, once it becomes too distorted, it sort of starts to reveal itself in your body. It starts to cause issues. Well, now you can say and look at yourself and say, oh my goodness, right? I reflect back at myself like, hey, there must be some sort of disharmony in my body, in my life, that has created this distortion within myself. And I like to think of it metaphorically like a weed in the garden. So at first, it's small, it's hard to find, it's just this root that is sitting in the garden somewhere beneath the soil, but then as it starts to bloom and the weed starts to reveal itself, and you can basically identify the weed more easily and pull it from your garden of consciousness, and then you have all your other stuff that you've planted consciously, but then you have the weed which has grown, right? It's distorted, it's grown up and shown its head, and now you can go plunk and goodbye. And that is how I like to see that quote here, how it is the way of distortion that in order to balance a distortion, one must accentuate it. So even though the limit of viewpoint behind the veil is the cause of all distortions, it seems to be the way, as I keep on with the garden metaphors and the plant metaphors, that as we grow in third density, just like the plants grow towards the sun, it is natural that we will grow towards the light of the one infinite creator, towards truth, truth, right? And so to undistortion. So it's just natural that we grow towards undistorting our beings. However, sometimes we have to sort of go down different paths of distortions so that we may know ourselves better and come to more conscious conclusions about ways to live, rather than just keeping them sort of settled down and just keeping like on a low surface level of life and not living and not diving deep and not examining yourself and your biases and all the things that lead to the disharmony in your life, right? Sometimes they really got to get out of control for you to be like, oh, yeah, bored to the forehead. Let's get to work here. Let's start to make some fixes. Let's start to put our focus on healing and harmony and things of goodness for ourselves. And once again, right, I made the podcast name, Why Can't It Be Easy? Well, the idea here is to my understanding, is pretty much progress is slow when you're in the know, and when you don't really know what's going on, then the mechanisms of confusion can work their ways with you. The growth is, as they state in this quote that I'm about to read you, the difference between a turtle versus a cheetah. So in session 82.18, the questioner asks, then prior to the forgetting process, there was no concept of anything but service to others polarization. What sort of societies and experiences in third density were created and evolved in this condition? Ra answers, I am Ra. It is our perception that such conditions created the situation of a most pallid experiential nexus in which lessons were garnered with the relative speed of the turtle to the cheetah. End of quote. So going back to the sort of pre-veiled experience that used to exist in our universe, where you were incarnated and you knew everything and were in the know and understood everything, you grew with the relative speed of the turtle, as opposed to the relative speed of the cheetah when you go behind the veil and you become confused and you become lost, only to find yourself again with more power than before, may I say. So why is that, right? Why is it that being confused and lost and more distorted leads like to the difference between you growing and running like a cheetah versus running and growing like a turtle? It's because as we become confused, we're pushed to find answers. We're pushed to seek answers. As we proceed to seek answers to the self and to understand what's going on with the distortion, our will is enhanced and the answers start to come, right? You'll know this yourself. We can become lazy and stagnant and just sort of sitting around and maybe doing a whole lot with our lives. And then all of a sudden a bunch of catalyst comes into our life, or experience or suffering or negativity or whatever shape or flavor it may have, but it basically makes you uncomfortable. And as you become uncomfortable, you seek to, find out why you're uncomfortable, and because something uncomfortable about you is trying to signal to you that there is disharmony, and so you probably want to find harmony again. And you can only find that by enhancing the will. And the will is enhanced sort of when it suffers, right? When you are put down in the lowest, darkest, deep pits of the shadow aspects of yourself in the dark night of the soul. I see it like a graph of math where, I don't know if you've looked at ever like a stock chart or something, and you have the line that goes up and down. Well, sometimes it needs to come way down to the bottom so that it can sort of load up on experience in itself and understand what's at the lowest, deepest depths of itself, in order to then blast off up into the ethers, up into the sky, into profit for yourself, right? So it is in going down there to the bottom, into the deep dark parts of ourselves, that pushes ourselves to understand what the heck is going on. Why must we suffer? Why must others suffer? Why must life be this way? Why must it be difficult? Why can't it just be easy and rainbows and gold and free food and love and community for everyone? Well, I mean, it could if we freely chose that as a society, but it seems that as we are sort of collectively confused in a way, that confusion will sort of push us to maybe suffer in certain ways, which will then push us to find the answers and to want to find those answers, because the way that I understand the universe is that only when you sort of seek it will it come to you. So if the people are just sort of stagnant and not seeking, well, maybe a little suffering, a little hardship might serve us all well and push us to, come together as one, and to be a larger community, a collective community that seeks to serve one another freely, through free will, instead of being forced to serve each other. There's may I make a little addendum there, that there is a big difference between freely choosing to serve others and forcing them to serve others. And in fact, if I can just quickly add in here, is the reason why I decided to start a Law of One page and share spiritual philosophy with people, to soften their hearts and to have them sort of come into their own selves and to giving freely in charity through themselves, rather than me becoming a politician and trying to convince other people to pass laws to force their will upon other people. Okay, we've kind of got off on a little bit of a tangent here, but we are talking about society, and so this kind of goes well into the last part of this podcast here, the very last topic, about this sort of Fermi Paradox. I don't know if you've ever heard the Fermi Paradox. It's basically something along the lines of, it's almost impossible with infinity and the largeness of the universe that aliens don't exist, but then at the same time, isn't it strange that we have no evidence that they do exist? And why is that? Well, right? Oh, look at me, a super fancy physicist, scientist, Mr. Fermi, who came up with that. And then I'm just some random dude in my house who's going to tell you the answer to that. So take it with a grain of salt. But it is what I'm just talking about before with the veil and free will. We come here behind the veil to have the mechanisms of confusion work their way on us, and is the hope or the faith, even the sort of common thing that happens with most planets and societies, is that they go through these things and they do eventually come together, like I said, as the plant grows towards the light, even amongst the confusion and the dirt and the soil and the muck and the mud, and there's a seed planted, and that seed will sprout eventually, and out comes life. So with this, I would like to end this with a quote from 20.26, and they basically just describe how it's not necessary to have outside influence. The mechanisms of confusion work themselves out just wonderfully, or most of the time. So 22.26, Ross states, "It is appropriate to allow the full travel of the workings of the confusion mechanism to operate in order for the planetary entities to develop that which they wished in, shall we say, freedom within their own thinking. It is often the case that a third density planetary cycle will take place in such a way that there need be no outside, shall we say, or other self-aid in the form of information. Rather, the entities themselves are able to work themselves towards the appropriate polarizations and goals of the third density learned teachings." End of quote. And what are those third density learned teachings again, my friends, that we sort of started this with? Well, the purpose of incarnation in third density is to learn the ways of love. So, my friends, let us work on those ways of love. Let us have faith and hope that as the world sort of gets more confused and dark, maybe we're hitting our bottom so that we can then rise again. Because that's what I hope for. And I don't tell you these things to try to bring you down or be negative. Why can't it be easy, right? The whole point of this is to cope, or to not to cope, obviously, but to accept our circumstances as they are, so things aren't as difficult. Because when we accept life as sort of suffering, another way to say that is that you accept that suffering are opportunities for service, right? You see suffering in yourself. Well, that is an opportunity to love yourself, to take care of yourself, to be a good representation of the one infinite creator, live life as you, as the creator is known to you, and be a good representation of that just in yourself. And then obviously you see suffering in other people and in the world. And so, hey, there's an opportunity to help that person, or to just give them some love or a hug, or send love their way, or who knows. And then, you see darkness in society and hardships there, and disasters, natural disasters, all those types of things. These are, once again, terrible as they are. There are no protection from the harsh gusts and flurries of quick and cruel catalyst. However, to the pure, to those who can see this perception that I'm trying to describe, that we are here to learn lessons of love, well then, my friend, the deepest, darkest things can happen to you, and as long as you continue to attempt to learn the lessons of love, you are doing well. You cannot fail. There is no failure, as I said before, right? There are no mistakes, there are surprises. you go down the wrong path, so that you may find, hey, I don't desire this. Now I'm going to turn around and walk towards my desires, right? We're going to take our compass that's pointed at the moon and we shall point it towards the sun. Enough shadows and enough trickery and confusion. Let us walk towards the light together, hand in hand. I love you guys. Thank you so much for listening. Please feel free to give this podcast a like. It helps with the algorithm. Like to see that you guys are paying attention and sort of appreciating this as I attempt to give and reflect on myself and the things that I'm doing here. Are they helpful? Are they not? And leave me a comment. I like to read them. I do read every single one. I try to reply to every single one, although sometimes I do take a week or so, as I do a lot of social media stuff, so I have to take my sort of conscious breaks from that and recharge so that I can get back to doing lovely podcasts like this. If you'd like to support this service, you find value in what I do, I am doing this for free, and so I do rely on seekers such as yourselves. If you'd like to join my Patreon at theoneinfinitecreator.com, you can scroll down to the support section. You can also just send me a one-time, PayPal thing of love anytime I see it pop up on my phone here and there. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and see a little pop up and I go, oh wow, what a great way to start the day. Somebody appreciates what I do, and I send a blessing and a thought of prayer and love to you, and I smile. But anyways, just to give you a little idea of what happened last few weeks and the last few podcasts, I was a bit down, going through some times of transformation. And so for those of you that like to listen to these things and stick around to the very end, I will fill you in that my transformation seems to be going fairly well. I said that I was trying to sort of let go of a certain vice that I had in order to make room for new things to grow within me. I may know myself better, and I'll just let you guys know that, and maybe you can just hear it in my voice, but things are going much better. Transformation and change is always difficult at first, but I do believe that I have my feet on the path, my friends, and so far haven't faltered really. I'm keeping strong, and I'm feeling good, and all is well. And so I just wanted to share that, that good vibes with you guys. I love you all. I love when you message me and talking back and forth, and just all these wonderful things that seem to be blossoming from this podcast and the connections that I'm making. So I love you guys, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week, and take care.